Hey guys, Jim Edwards here, and welcome to the Sales Copywriting and Content Marketing Hacks podcast. And Stu, this is episode big 4.0.
It is. Well, 40.0.
Oh, 40, sorry. I'm feeling a little burnt out. It's messing with my ability to perform cognitive functions or some other BS I can think of. So you guys might notice Stu and I are here for our 40th episode, which is pretty cool. But we have a special guest, Dr. Kelly. Hi, Dr. Kelly.
Hey! Thanks for having me on, Jim and Stu. I'm super excited to be here with you guys. It's pretty awesome.
No, you're excited now. We'll see how you feel at the end.
I'm sure it'll be great.
There you go. You might feel a little burnt out at the end. So the interesting thing that we're doing here today, and yes, if you have a beverage, my objective is to see if I can get stuff to squirt out of your nose. So just beware. I've almost gotten Stu a couple times, and it's been pretty funny. So
challenge accepted.
What we are doing today is we're doing things a little differently. Instead of us interviewing somebody, we're letting somebody interview us, which is kind of cool. And so Kelly contacted me and was like, hey, can I interview you about burnout and some other stuff? And we've known each other for a while now.
Yeah.
And have actually met in person.
Which is way cool.
Yeah. Which is, it's like, I've known you for a long time. We've actually met in person.
Well, we have.
So why don't you tell everybody kind of the background about what are we doing here today and why are we going to be talking about burnout?
Okay. So this has become a very recent passion of mine, discovered anyhow. And part of my mission, the people who I love and want to serve and be able to help do more is all of us, entrepreneurs. And I know that within the entrepreneurial space, according to research, entrepreneurs experience burnout more commonly than any other walk through the business world. So I know, because I've personally stuck myself in the hospital not once, but twice as a result of burnout, I know different signs and symptoms and strategies to keep that from happening. So part of my goal is to, one, be able to reach out to you guys, start learning more about the patterns of burnout and the different symptoms you've experienced. What type of strategies are you already using on your own, but then be able to come back in and offer other ideas to keep that from happening. So that's part of why I'm actually here.
So what's your background? What do you do for a living?
So I am actually a DC, a doctor of chiropractic. I like to say doctor of cause because that's my mission, is trying to find the cause of the problem. I specialize in clinical nutrition. So we run a lot of comprehensive labs, which is just technobabble for like blood work, hair analysis, all these things, and create lifestyle modifications and dietary recommendations, and if needed, supplement recommendations to try to take people's health to the next level, keep them from becoming a statistic and just buying into the standard of care. Like, people come into my office all the time and say, oh, I'm just getting older, this is just part of it. And my passion is like, no, when you have a symptom, and even as incredibly common as it may appear, it is never normal. We should never accept that to be normal. So it's my job to try to help unwind what's gone on and give people back the quality of life. So
cool.
That's me.
So Stu, you had a question before we got started about burnout, what it is and all that stuff.
Sure. Mainly is just what are the symptoms. One thing I do with my clients is I try to help them define what is overtraining, which is probably very similar, some of the same hormonal responses to it. And one of my requests that I have them do is, here's the list of all the symptoms, and now go give this to someone who knows you and loves you.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to see it. You're not going to see these symptoms necessarily. Sometimes you will once you get a little better in tune with your body, but give it to someone who knows you and sees you every day, because they will start seeing these things come before you do. So anyway, that's what I do. So
that's cool. Yeah. Well, so to answer symptoms of burnout, like, they can be so simple as far as like just the fatigue, the mental exhaustion, to more of like, in our family growing up in an entrepreneurial world and family, like anytime we had a break, it was always quote unquote the letdown. And that's, if you were going to get sick, that's when it happened. So just a suppressed immune system, meaning it's easier to get sick, or it also takes you longer to get well at times because your immune system isn't as supercharged as what it could be. But then it can even get to more extremes of withdrawing from people and being more along the lines of depressed and just not engaging, not getting out of bed. So there's a wide variety of symptoms. I mean, aches and pains even can be related to burnout as well. So it's anything and everything that you could possibly imagine. But those are some of the key highlighters of
just things that tend to slow you down.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and not being able to function the way you normally would.
Now, why do you say this is in the entrepreneurial space mainly?
Well,
I mean, it's for many people, but why focus on the entrepreneurial space?
So a little bit about me too. I've ran ultra marathons, and
that'll burn you out.
Yeah, not at all.
What's the longest one you ever did?
I've completed a couple of 50-mile races. I trained for 100, but I didn't finish because of poor planning.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Longest I've ever done is 24 and a half. So much respect.
Yes.
Well, I hate running is the interesting thing. You can get away with a lot of power hiking in ultra marathons. And I did Chicago Marathon in 2006. That was a cool experience. I don't ever need to do that again. Right. That was painful. It was brutal. Ultras are way better. But the reason why I bring that up is because entrepreneurs to me are like the ultra marathon runners of the business world. Everything falls on our shoulders. It's all about us to keep things moving forward. We don't really have set hours unless we've made them for ourselves. It's like once you launch something, now you got to keep it up and running, but then you're looking for the next thing to do. It's not often that we have ability to take time off. Like if you get sick or you get injured, we just kind of have to keep plugging right through because everything falls back on our shoulders. And I think it's mostly because of that entrepreneurs experience burnout more frequently than the average guy going and punching a clock from 9 to 5. And it's just accepted as normal, like almost as part of our job description, like, oh yeah, it's going to happen and there's nothing you can do about it. So does that help, Stu? Oh,
absolutely. In fact, I can see a few things that occurred through earlier in my career because fitness has always been a hobby. Then I made fitness a job and I lost my hobby.
Yeah.
If you think about it that way. And then, because I have a home office, I can set my hours, but I never leave work.
Right. Exactly. So it's the perpetual, like it's always accessible.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Give us a definition of burnout. You talked about the symptoms. So give us a singular definition of entrepreneurial burnout.
Ooh, good title.
Yeah, now I gotta fulfill on that, Jim. I wasn't prepared for that one.
That's okay.
What would I define that as? Basically, just the inability to pick up and keep doing life as it is. Like you just don't have enough energy capacity. You don't have enough mental stamina. You can't even think straight half of the time. I know we just got back a bunch of us from Steve Larson's Offermind, and I was talking to those people, and it was taking at least 3 to 4 days for them to feel like they were rebooted enough to came back online to just continue on.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, to me, my definition of burnout is that I'm just done, mentally and physically done. And I can feel the mental becomes physical to the point where I feel in my body, I feel the mental pain in my body to the point where I just can't do anymore.
Ah, that's perfect. Yeah. I appreciate you being here, Jim.
So what is the 1-2 punch to counteract that? Because it happens to all of us. Sometimes we just push too hard and I'm done. Friday afternoon, I got nothing left and I'm done. So
Friday afternoon's an awesome nap day, but
what do you recommend? A nap is ideal actually to help.
Fridays are my days off and I wake up the earliest on Fridays and go beat myself up in the hills because it's the only time I can. But yes, naps are great. So let me ask a different question. Since Stu, you've been so much in the physical space, and then Jim, I know that you work out like a crazy man too. I don't know, have either of you guys trained for competitions? Wait, yes, you have, because you have a medal, Jim, on one of your pictures from doing, what was it, a Spartan race or a...
I've done a bunch of different stuff. I haven't done a Spartan, but I've done stuff that, but it's nothing compared to Stu making it through buds. So, I mean, it's all relative.
So different way to look at this. Would you say that entrepreneurs are kind of like athletes, or should be?
Yeah, I think we're competitive in nature, and my workouts, I mean, when you say, have I done a competition? I was like, every day's a competition.
Right.
You know, I'm competing either with myself or a clock, or I'm very fortunate I have like 20-year-olds working out with me. And
that's awesome.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to stay with those guys. So, every day is a competition.
This is the sound of competition starting. Ready? That's the stopwatch starting right there.
Yep.
That's the start.
So here's the question. For competition day, if you just show up and compete, but you don't put forth the work to train for that event, how well are we going to perform?
Not.
Right. So the key with burnout is not trying to implement things during the process of, like, if you're really intense when you're putting on a launch campaign, or you're putting on a mastermind, or you're attending an event and you're doing things to an extreme capacity, trying to implement strategies at that point is really too late. So the key with really avoiding it and combating burnout, or at least minimizing it as much as possible, is to have a routine in place that you do every single day. And we know the most common things to help make us healthier, of course, are eating right and exercising, making sure we're getting enough sleep at night.
Yeah.
So part of one of my questions was going to be, like, in the midst of when you are doing a launch, or you're at an event, or, you know, running a campaign, when time seems to be limited, that's when everybody's like, oh, but I don't have time to do this. That's when we need to do it more. So during those timeframes, what of any of the strategies you guys have implemented, what do you keep, and how do you modify those methods? Like, do you just reduce some of the time? Do you pick certain aspects of what your daily routine looks like to keep you healthy and keep those in the equation? So what do you guys do?
I think, number one, you got to have the mindset that I dictate the calendar does not dictate me. That's number one. Okay, no matter what's going on, it's the same 24 hours, and I need to be conscious of what's going on. Certain things are inviolable for me, except, and I say that, and then today I didn't do it. But, you know, working out 6 days a week, 5-6 days a week, pretty much 6 days a week is a must. I'm not working out today, but I work because of a travel thing and a family situation, but that might happen 4 or 5 days a year.
Yeah.
I'm going to work out. I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep. I'm going to get it done. And I'm in control. Nothing else controls me. And I have that attitude all the time. So that, because it gives me a feeling of confidence of being at the cause rather than at the effect. So mindset is number one. Number two, I realize that I used to be a real crazy person before I was working out consistently, like really working out consistently and really working out when I was working out. So now that's become like my stress release mechanism is that I'm, you know, I know that's there. So I get it out of my system. Whatever the stuff that builds up that creates burnout comes from not burning off stuff that you need to get rid of. And so I know when I work out, I can do that. But, you know, the funny thing is that I actually plan a lot of my planning into my workout time. So if you saw my workout book, which I have a book that all my workouts and every rep, every time, everything is in there. It's filled with notes, and I'll actually start working out with the expectation of finding the solution, finding the answer, brainstorming, mindstorming, coming up with the solution. That's a real part of my just everyday overall strategy. When there's something you're working on, like a launch or something like that, the biggest thing to do to avoid burning out, at least for me, is you just have a giant list of all the stuff that you know that has to get done, but then you don't look at that list all the time. You then take, for me, I take a little piece of paper and I write down the one thing I need to do next. And that is my to-do list, is the one thing I need to do list. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 days, because I've been up here helping take care of my dad and doing some stuff. But I mean, it's like the one thing. And then the next thing gets written on the list and I make a little square so I can check it off. And that's overwhelm, I think, comes from a couple different sources. One is looking at the totality of what you have to get done and thinking about the immenseness of it, the enormity of it, instead of just breaking it down into controllable bites.
Right.
The other thing is that you get tired. For me, I know that every day I have about 4 total hours of intense, what you would consider intense creativity and ability to get stuff done. And then I got about 4 hours of just kind of can get crap done, but I don't want to think very much. You know, I call those creative activities, and the other one is mechanical activities. And so I plan my day so that the two of the 4 most creative hours are the first 2 hours when I get up. When I get up in the morning, I take care of my personal business, you know, do my little reading room activity for a few minutes, drink my coffee, and then I hit it for 2 hours hard. Yeah. Now and here's the thing where you got to say, I dictate the calendar doesn't dictate me. Exactly. Those 2 hours are not from, 6 to 8. If I don't get it done between 6 and 8, then I'm screwed. My whole day is shot. No, it's the first 2 days. I mean, it's the first 2 hours after I poop. And so
whenever that
yesterday I was up at 3:30. I knew a whole bunch of stuff I had to get done. And I was up at 3:30 in the morning at work. I actually worked from 3:30 in the morning until 7. Got all the stuff I had to get done, had my meeting, and then I went and worked out for 2 hours because I knew that it wasn't going to be. And then, so what does that do? After you do that, I've got this feeling of accomplishment and a feeling of control. The whole rest of the day, I actually got a bunch of stuff done, and I took a nap in the afternoon. Awesome. And I got stuff done. But I mean, you have that feeling of accomplishment and control, which is the complete opposite of feeling burnt out. But burnout is going to come, at least for me, comes from overwhelm or from being tired, running out of that mental well. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. I just kind of went off on a tangent, but that's kind of how I feel about burnout. There have been times in my life, I remember, true story. Let's go back to when I didn't manage burnout very well. And I'd love to hear a similar story from Mr. Smith, but he probably doesn't have one of these stories. But I was a young mortgage broker. When I graduated from college, I quit or got fired from 7 different jobs the first 18 months I was out of school. I went to work for a mortgage company, and for whatever reason, at that point in my life, it clicked. I mean, I was 22 years old, 22. Yeah, I was 22. I was smoking 2.5 packs of Marlboros a day. I would drink at least 2 pots of coffee. I ate once a day. I weighed like 135 pounds, and all I did was just work.
Yeah.
And I was making 6 figures back in the early 90s, had my own house. I paid for Acura, the $400 suits. I mean, I thought I was high speed, low drag. And then one day I hit a wall that I was standing in the shower having a panic attack, sobbing because I couldn't go to work. I could not bring myself to go to work. And my fiance, girlfriend, wife now, so it's okay that we were living in sin, was standing there looking at me like, what is your problem? And I just said, I don't know. And I mean, that was the closest I've ever been to, like you say, needing to be hospitalized, because I was just done. And having learned from those, though, I've learned to recognize the signs long before it gets to that point. And that's one of the keys, is you can't let it get to that point.
Right.
And again, feeling confident, feeling in control, feeling like you're accomplishing stuff goes a long way to preventing burnout. The other thing that I've seen is that people screw themselves when they compare themselves to others. So, you look at a launch and you're like, oh man, Jim did that, or Stu did that, or Russell did that, or all these guys did this. And it's like, do you realize that I have been doing this since 1997. Stu's been doing this since 1998.
Right.
It's not like we just got to the point where we could, we just showed up and we know how to do all this stuff. It's you learn, you compare yourself to where you were, not to where other people are. Because if you compare yourself to others, in the end, you're probably holding yourself back.
Right.
So that's the other thing, is I only compare me to what I have done. I'll see what other people are doing. I'll take inspiration from that. I'll take, what I can see that they're doing that I can apply to what I'm doing, but I do not compare myself to what they're doing, because, and I've had this conversation with my dad this morning. I said, I know of guys, and this is, I'm not talking about Russell or anybody.
Right.
I know guys, I've known guys over the years who might make $20 million in a year, but they only keep about $1 million.
Right.
Okay. With all the expenses and stuff, I would much rather make a couple million and keep $1 million.
Yeah.
It's a lot less pressure.
Exactly.
So, but if you're comparing, oh, that guy made $20 million. Yeah. How much is he keeping? That's the same thing I saw in real estate too. See, real estate is earning $1 million in gross closed commission. Yeah. And they're on food stamps. They got like 30 grand left at the end because they spend it all on staff and ads.
Right.
So compare yourself to yourself and where you've been. So I will yield the floor to Mr. Smith. Because awesome, I'm not even sure what question we're answering.
Well, no, I will yield it back to the person that's supposed to be asking us questions.
Oh, yeah.
I see. Well, then, Stu,
I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, this is great. Like, this is perfect. We're following essentially my script without even knowing it.
Oh, good.
So,
cool.
Yeah. You guys are on point. It's like you've done this a few times before.
Okay.
Because we've been where you're talking to people about. It's normal and natural for this to happen. You got to have a strategy for how to overcome it, though.
Right. So, Stu, I guess it would be swinging back to you of have you actually experienced this, and what types of strategies have you implemented to minimize and keep it from happening, or what do you share with your clients?
Good questions. No, I haven't had like the kick myself in the butt needing to go, take a personal day, type of thing,
right.
Or go to the hospital. But I have definitely run myself ragged, gotten sick at, monthly type of illness that just never went away. Just overdoing it in everything, not just overdoing it with work and the stress of work and providing for a family, but also overdoing it physically, which, when you think hormonally speaking, it's the same hormones. Stress is stress.
Yeah,
whether you have bullets flying over your head or you can't pay a bill at the end of the month, that is stress, right? And it will accumulate with you over time to where it becomes rather acute or toxic, like you're saying. I think that's when burnout hits. But I think we all have definitely experienced some form of burnout. And when I talk about overtraining, for people, that's how I kind of define burnout.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a long list of symptoms here. Underperformance.
Oh yeah.
Right. You got fatigue, lethargy, just everything's sore, nothing's working, but that can also be mental performance. It can be everything. So you got physiological changes, got weight gain or weight loss, you got sick, swollen lymph nodes, everything, excessive sweating, increased VO2 or reduced VO2 max.
Right.
All those things, increased heart rate, resting heart rate. That's a really good one for me, is when I know when I'm starting to feel it. And here's where Jim and I add that mobility day in that we're talking about before the show, is when I take a heart rate, I'm feeling I'm dragging. I haven't even gotten out of bed yet. So I take my pulse, and if it's a higher pulse than normal, like a resting heart rate,
right,
should be low 60s, maybe even below that, first thing in the morning before I even start moving. But if it's in the 70s and, maybe even the 80s, I'm like, okay, something's going on. I need to pull back on the reins a little bit and slow it down. So a couple weeks ago, Jim was pretty burnt out. And I said, let's do a double mobility day week. So I threw a mobility day in on Tuesday, threw another one on like Thursday or Friday. And a mobility day is this. And it really helps you engage that parasympathetic side of your nervous system.
Which calms things down.
Calms things down, exactly. Yeah. So sometimes after a very stressful day, the last thing you need is a butt-kicking workout.
Right.
That's just going to sympathetically charge you, and now you're even more burned out. Right? So bring it down, focus on breathing. So we do some non-impact cardio activity for 5 minutes, and then we stretch and foam roll for 5 minutes, and we repeat that 5 times.
And we watch something stupid on Netflix while we're doing it.
Yeah,
and it makes it fun.
You can do that as well. But awesome. There's an hour right there, and you're done. Right? And you feel good. You're not in pain from a workout. You're not tired, but you feel like you did something.
Right.
You can come back and be a little more focused at work. So Jim and I, it was funny. Jim and I were doing this. We did it twice in 1 week, and normally just do it once a week. And we sent an email back. Jim says, I don't think I need 2. I said, yeah, let's save that one till we're 60. So it was like once in their 40s and 50s, once a week is fine. But once we hit 60, we might need the 2
Maybe
a week.
Twice.
two a week mobility day.
But what Stu's also done is started working in mini mobility days, so making mobility part of specific days. And I'm going to interrupt because that's everything you said, Stu. If I hadn't known it was physical and I had thought we were talking about mental, all those symptoms you listed off could be mental symptoms as well as physical symptoms.
They are together.
Right.
Because it all links. Absolutely.
And that made me think, avoiding burnout, just like working out is an everyday thing. You can't just decide, I'm going to work out once a month.
Right.
Even though I've seen stuff where people are full of crap. But anyway, we'll leave that alone. But it's an everyday strategy to avoid burnout. I wrote this stuff down. Eat right, sleep, exercise, recreation or hobby, something fun every day, something you love doing, time with loved ones or friends, and listen to your body. Pay attention, because your mind and body are always talking to you, but rarely are you listening.
Yes.
And it's always telling you, like yesterday when I was running around the lake, I was on my, 3rd mile, and I said, I'm not feeling awesome. I'm going to drop this ruck. I'm not going to run this last 2 miles with the ruck. I'm going to drop it. And I was feeling kind of sick and tired and stuff. And I dropped the ruck. I put it in my car and I ran the last 2 miles, and it was fun. It was fun. I said, okay, I was listening to my body. Sometimes you need to go read a book. In order to succeed, you need to stop what you're doing, take a little nap, read a book, reset your brain, kind of fill that well of creativity back up, and then come back to it. I like to do a lot of two a days as far as work. Like I'll get a whole bunch of stuff done in the morning, and then I'll work out. I'll get a bunch of stuff done before lunch, the real intense stuff. Then I'll take lunch, and then I'll take a nap. And then, I'll take a good nap, like for an hour nap. And because I can, because I'm the boss. Right. And then I'll have like Stu clued me on this. Before you're going to take a nap, if you drink a little bit of caffeine, nothing too crazy. What do you call it, Stu? A nappuccino?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nappuccino.
You front load your nap.
Yeah, yes. I have my little nappuccino, and then I'll wake up, and I can, a lot of times, can simulate that same creativity that I have in the morning when I first wake up from being asleep. I can get that another hour and a half burst in the afternoon and get more done in an hour and a half than most people can get done in 6 hours, which is really what I'm always trying to do.
Same.
I'm trying to do in 1 hour what the average person can do in 4 hours. I'm trying to do more in a day than most people can do in a week or 2 or 3 days, and being smart and strategic. And part of the reason people burn out also is because they don't have a clear plan. They don't have a specific objective every single day, so they don't have that feeling of control. Right. And Stu, talk for a minute about how important planning and stuff is in anything that you're doing, because you're the one that really has brought that home to me.
You and I share a very similar schedule. as far as creativity and administrative work, I'm very big in the morning. I get all my stuff done. Most of my to-do list items are deadlines with websites that I write for, my own deadlines. I got a couple of books that are up in the air. When I say up in the air, they're back here in my head. I haven't gotten out yet. That I'm due this year for 2 more books. So I'm always constantly thinking or doing, and I'm most productive in the morning. So my schedule that I have written down for me is I wake up, I get my workout done, I come back, I'm ready to roll. And probably from 8 to noon, I am jamming on something. I'm either doing a podcast or I'm writing, right? I don't get into Facebook or anything like that. I don't, get distracted. Yeah. What I do, I save that for the afternoon because I know I'm not very creative in the afternoon. So I tend to do more of the administrative stuff, processing orders, maybe some customer service items, things like that, do some Facebook posts, share some of the stuff that I had created in the morning and the afternoon, kind of distributing all that out where it's supposed to be. And that is my schedule. And I tell people all the time, if it's not in the schedule, it doesn't exist. So you got to have it in the schedule. And then it becomes a habit. Once it becomes a habit, you don't even have to write it down anymore. It's just part of the way you cycle your day through.
And your mind and body get conditioned to perform at those times. So you can depend, and it also reduces stress because I know I'm going to get it done. Like I got a webinar tomorrow. Yesterday, I knew that I had to get the webinar stuff done. I'm like, okay, I got a webinar coming Wednesday. But it's not that, because I'm like, okay, I will get that done tomorrow morning. That's the thing I'm going to do. And subconsciously you cook on it too. Right. So it's having that schedule gives you, again, the confidence that it's going to happen, and you hold yourself accountable as well. Another thing that'll create burnout is if you don't hold yourself accountable, if you don't stick to the schedule, if you don't hold yourself to deadlines daily. That's I agree. The key. So
completely agree. We are very much creatures of routine and habit. And it's the same thing as like sleep. People need to have a routine that they go through in the evenings that basically clues their body in that sleep is coming, which helps, preface how the night is actually going to go.
Yeah. So, liquor shots is a good shortcut.
Hey, another idea I use is, how we all use alarm clocks to wake up? I use alarm clocks to say, time to go sleep.
Yep.
So I have this 9:30 alarm that goes off, and I'm like, I realize it's 9:30 because I'm dragging by 9:30. I know it's coming, but it's just one of those little reminders. I'm like, oh,
that's right.
Got to go.
Bedtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I may start calming down, for another 10 or 15, 20 minutes. And then, before 10, I'm out. So
they say the researchers, all the research that's been done, like people really should wake up at the same time every day and go to sleep at the same time every day. And that's part of creating that routine and running off of our internal clock that controls far more than just our sleep-wake cycles. It actually controls our metabolism and when we should be hungry and when we need to burn fat and so many other things in the hormone realm. So having that structure is really helping set you up for success versus just burning the candle at all angles and trying to do all and be all for all humans in your world. It doesn't work that way at all.
Right.
So Jim, I'm curious because you got the gym boat coming up here in a couple of months. I don't know what your event schedule.
7 weeks.
Yes, the countdown is on. Of it, like, are your days for you personally, because that's your big event, are they still going to kind of flow the same way that you're talking about right now? Your every day of you're going to work out and then you're going to have your event and you're still going to get 8 hours of sleep at night, or is there going to be more socialite? Like, what is that going to look like for you? Or have you thought about that yet?
I dictate the schedule.
Yes.
The schedule does not dictate me. I will be up at 6 in the morning. The funny thing is you got to listen to your body a lot. Something weird's happening to me over the last few months in that I'll go to bed at like 8:30 and wake up at 2:30. And then I'm like, I'm freaking awake. I'm not, it's like I'm needing less sleep in one go, but then I like having an hour nap in the afternoon. But if I skip the hour nap, I still wake up after about 6 hours.
Interesting.
It's weird. I don't want a blood test today. Anyway.
No, don't worry.
But the thing is, what I'll do is, okay, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna work out. Now, I've already thought about this in advance when I go to my coach and say, okay, look, for this week, I gotta have workouts that I can get done in 60 minutes. I gotta have something I gotta be done in 60 minutes. But I'm gonna work out. And you know, I'm gonna eat. I'm going to rest. I'm not going to drink. I mean, the other big thing I think helps me is I don't drink any alcohol.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
Alcohol's, I think, has a major effect on a lot of things. So I don't drink any alcohol at all. Don't have any problem with people that do. Hell, all the people going on the gym boat are getting unlimited drinks. You get up to 15 bottles of wine a day on your drink package. I mean, whatever you want to do.
Oh my God.
But then I take revenge on them by starting at 9 in the morning. So you better pace yourself. Start early. What the man say? You can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning. So the point is that I'm not going to. I have to be at my best for them. In order for me to be at my best, I need to be at my best schedule. So I'm going to get sleep. I'm going to eat. I'm going to work out. That'll give me feeling of confidence, accomplishment, and all that stuff. It's just you've got to do it. It's because if you don't. What's the alternative? It's living at the effect. It's living burnt out. It's setting yourself up for failure. So I don't know who came up with this, and people talk about we have limited bandwidth and we have a limited well of energy and creativity. And when it's exhausted or the bandwidth gets exceeded, we as people, as human beings, shut down. I think if you shut down enough, that's when you burn out. It's like brownouts. It's like an electrical brownout that will eventually destroy your computer. The power doesn't go out, but it goes down. And it goes down enough that eventually it just fries everything out. That's another way to look at it too. So I don't let it do that. When I had to go out to Boise to do the relaunch of funnel scripts. And I was out there for 3 days. And I mean, you want to talk about being around, the surface of the sun, you be around Russell for a few days. I mean, that dude gets more done in a day than other people get done in a month. But every day I worked out, every day I made sure I ate, I got the sleep I needed. You have to do it. Otherwise it's not going to work.
Exactly.
So
we as humans, we have an amazing reserve. But every single day, depending on the choices that we're making, we're either taking, fuel out of that reserve tank or we're filling it back up. And the body has its amazing ability to do things, even in a haphazard fashion, without us recognizing, like what Stu was saying in the very beginning of giving a list of symptoms to your loved ones, someone who's close to you, that will notice those things before you do, because oftentimes we don't pick up on it. And by the time symptoms do show up, you've already completely emptied out your well. And now you've got a huge mountain to climb to restore that. So we will go until we can't. And essentially, like you're saying, that's the same translating medicine wise. You won't get the symptoms until you've done that to that degree. And then once you start putting, good input back into the body, the symptoms will go away first. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your reserve tank's full again either.
Right.
So with that,
you can limp along and look like you're doing okay, but you're still running on fumes. You're just
exactly. Yeah. So the consistency definitely is key. And one of the questions that I had for you guys too, of okay, when you do experience some burnout or you feel yourself kind of slipping off the course and not feeling as good as you are, how do you help get yourself back on track? How do you know when you've actually recovered? And how long does that normally take you?
Well, for me, it's probably a few days.
Okay.
And because my wife probably once a month says, I think you're overtraining.
Yeah.
And she's really sensitive to it because she sees my face. She sees that I haven't shaved for 3 days. She sees all these little signs that, I'm just missing out on, maybe a little grumpier than normal. All those little things like that just, and like I said, she goes, you're overtraining. I'm like, okay. And I've learned to listen to that because I gave her all the symptoms anyway. I said,
good.
Here, this is what you need to tell me when you see this, because I don't see it. And, which is good. I think that helps me a lot. And so I force myself, I take a nap, try to right then. I turn my scheduled workout into a mobility day.
Yeah.
Or I go and just coach instead of actually do with all my guys. I'll just go and coach for the day. So yeah, that is how I have dealt with it in the past. And it definitely takes a couple of days. And then usually by that time it's a Saturday or Sunday. So I'll take a couple more days, take it easy over the weekend, and I'm ready to hit on Monday.
Yeah.
So
perfect. For me, it's a situation very similar, only it's more the mental stuff of the same thing. But my wife will say, "You're doing too much." And, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And then that's but it's because I got all this stuff I want to get done, and part of it is just recognizing it and then taking a break for a day or two. Because if you can take a break even for an afternoon, it doesn't build up over time. So you need to take a break for a month. And one of the things that will lead to burnout, especially we were talking about entrepreneurs, when an entrepreneur is first starting a project or starting a new project, it's like we feel like we have to go at it 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, because I've got to get this up and running. And once I get this running, then I'll take a break. That's stupid. Because you're not, I see this all the time. It's like, okay, I'm tired. I'm just freaking tired. All right. If I try and do this right now, it's going to take me 6 or 8 hours. I'll be at this till 10 o'clock tonight. If I just stop tomorrow morning, I can have this done in an hour.
Right.
So you tell yourself a lie that by putting in time, you're actually going to create a quality result.
Right.
And that's a lie. And that leads to the burnout because through physical exertion and mental exhaustion. So you got to plan it out. And if you plan it out really well and then execute based on your known best biorhythms, and that's a fancy way I made up to say, knowing when you do your best work during the day, you got to plan the best use of those finite hours.
Right.
And that's how you do it. But we, no matter how far, I'll give myself, I'm just gonna bust my ass for a few days and then I'll take a break. Maybe that works sometimes, and it has worked. I mean, when you have to work it, like when I went to Boise, but then you had better plan in your breaks.
Yep.
Because if you don't plan in, like when Monday comes around, you're like, oh, I guess it's Monday and I gotta get going, and then you never have that break, then you're boned. Yep. So it's you can lie to yourself and that's fine, but if you'll look at the reality and say, okay, I gotta launch this project, I've got to make this work. That's the one that gets me too, is that people, I quit my job and I've only got 30 days to make this work. Well, Chuckles, you better go get you a part-time job today, because it ain't happening. And if they're coming, you better figure out a way to cover your mortgage and cover your food, and not much more than that. So you're still hungry and not comfortable, but you ain't going to make this work in the next 30 days. If you ain't got a list, you ain't got some cash reserves, you ain't got friends with big lists, and you don't have a product already done and a proven sales message, it ain't happening. Okay. Right. So don't think that you can make it happen, because all you're going to do is just keep digging that hole. And I had to get that off my.
Yeah. I have the same rant with some of my students. They have this deadline that they set up for themselves. I'm going to be ready by February. I said, how about you just go when you are ready? Don't rush getting ready. Don't rush getting it done to get it done. Get it done and make it good and ready, Exactly. So I think a lot of us put arbitrary deadlines on ourselves that really don't matter.
But don't use it as an excuse to procrastinate, though. No, that's the other end of that spectrum. That's the other end of the spectrum.
And I will say this: entrepreneurs are competitors. So sometimes you like that deadline to push yourself a little bit. That's fine. But also when you start a project, the adrenaline of that new project gives you more energy. So you can get things done a little bit longer, but you also have to watch that and kind of counterbalance some of that, hormonal response.
Exactly.
And
stress
like I said,
is horrible.
Right. And downshift a little bit, like we said, with that easy breathing and just go for a walk. One thing I recommend for a lot of people with highly stressful jobs is before every meal, walk for 10 minutes.
Yes. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And go outside and get in the sunshine. They say, even if you had 20 minutes, like take your lunch with you outside, go do your walk, and then stay in the sunshine. 20 minutes of sunlight actually recharges your brain and gives you more energy and focus ability, just like drinking another cup of coffee. Which I'm not a caffeine Nazi, but a little bit is okay. A lot is not necessarily great.
Right.
And then also it helps get being active like that, as you know, Stu, you create a different hormone release. You get that feel-good hormone.
Yep.
It's the one that actually helps decrease pain. It's our endorphins. You can get that with just a 10-minute walk. There was a study done out at UCLA that said just a 10-minute walk was enough to change outlook and improve energy levels and your focus and concentration for at least 2 hours.
Nice.
So that's a huge return on investment and time too.
Yeah.
So, and I would rather somebody, like going back to training with ultras, I sometimes would have to do 2-a-days to make it work in the schedule. And you always question, is that going to work? Because it's not what you're actually doing in the race. And then you realize it's more about time on feet. It doesn't matter when it happens, so long as it's within the same day. And it actually felt better to break things up into smaller chunks and go at it a few different times versus just doing it all in one fell swoop. So same thing with taking a walk periodically throughout a work day.
Because you don't want your workout to turn into a source of stress either. Right. And I've had that happen where it's like, oh man, I gotta hurry up.
Yep.
Yeah. We have way too much stress in life as it is. Ooh. We need to keep that to a minimum as much as we can on our own. And that's planning is huge strategy.
So what do we need to do to wrap this up?
Well, I was going to say, if there was one thing you wish you would have known way back when, but I think you already nailed that. Like, what is the one thing that if you were to say, do this to the entrepreneurs in our audience, and how they can actually create that in their day now, what's the one thing? What's the one takeaway of all the list of amazing things that you gave us today? What's the most important, do you think, out of all of them?
Yeah. So what is the one thing that I said, man, I wish I'd have done this 10 years ago?
Yeah.
We talk about that all the time, Stu.
Yeah. I would say foam rolling.
Okay.
Foam rolling and stretching. Way. Foam rolling and stretching.
The right way.
And, like if you don't have time to go out to the gym or go out and get sweaty, foam rolling and stretching is a really good, and like I said, that 10-minute walk before a meal really helps recharge. And if you need to, take a nap. I don't take a nap every day. I probably a couple times a week, but when I need to, I will take one every day that week if I need to. So, once again, it kind of depends on your current status, mentally, physically, energy levels, all of those things about what you need to do, and just be in tune with it. Right. I think once you realize all the symptoms, then you can start seeing them a little bit, maybe in yourself or in others, or have somebody else help you see them. Those have been the biggest help for me, especially as I age, because my recovery requires more time now. When I was in my 20s, it didn't matter. I could recover, the next day I was ready to go again, but in the 30s start slowing down. The 40s is just a kick in the butt, and the 50s is even worse.
No, the 50s gives you a chance to be more strategic.
But I'm smarter.
Smarter, exactly, smarter.
But I'm smarter now, and I actually feel better than I did when I was 30. So
exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, I have two things, all right, because I can't do just one. But these go together. The first one is, don't do what most people do, which is to confuse goals with outcomes. To lose 20 pounds is not a goal. That is an outcome. Right. The only goals you can have are the actions you're going to take. So my outcome is to be in the best shape I can be for a 52-year-old man. My goal every day is to do the workout that this guy sends me, whichever way when this is done. If this guy sends me, whatever goal he sends me, whatever workout he sends me, my goal is to get that workout done every day. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
So somebody says, okay, my goal is to make $1 million. No, my outcome is to have a funnel that makes $1 million. My goal is to take the actions in sequence that create the outcome and to take those actions on a daily basis from a checklist. That's the difference. That's a huge key.
That is huge.
Second thing I would tell you, and this goes right along with that, with the goals, is if you really want to succeed, you don't go and do it stupid. You got to be smart. And being smart as an entrepreneur means having a plan, having your goals, executing your plan, accomplishing your goals every single day. And the number one part of that is you've got to cover your short-term income requirements without being comfortable. Because if you do that, then you avoid panic, but you stay hungry.
Right.
So if you want to make, if your outcome is a business making $1 million a year from a funnel, and your income requirements every month for all the bills to keep everything going with nothing extra is $4,000, then you have to have a plan and action and a plan in place to make you $4,000 a month. And then have a plan for how you're going to take the actions that you need to take to get the $1 million funnel and maintain your sanity in the process. You have to be able to do both of those at the same time, because if you don't cover your short-term stuff, you end up doing stupid stuff. You end up acting out of desperation rather than out of intelligence, and you will crash and burn. For every story you hear of somebody who chucked it all, quit their job, and made $1 million within 30 days, there are 1 million people who didn't. And I'm not one of, it took me 22 years to be an overnight success. So you've got to do that. Those are the keys. All those things work together to keep the plate spinning to make it happen. If you do it any other way, you are screwing yourself.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. I think, gosh, this was awesome.
It was fun.
I love it. It's great. Thank you so much for having me join you guys today. And I can't wait to take this information and utilize it, start sharing it with other entrepreneurs as well. So I appreciate that greatly.
Sure.
So just to plug what you're doing, what are you doing with this information? What is your reason for doing this? I know you have a business involved, but what are your goals with it?
Part of what I'm creating right now is a quick start guide to avoiding burnout. I may actually change the title of that, because what I'm doing is what we just did now, interviewing entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, and figuring out what strategies, what tips, what tricks have they learned through the years that have worked the best for them. So I may be pulling all of this together and then adding in the medical component that I know, minus the technobabble, and creating a resource for everybody in this space so that they have the information and hopefully will implement it so they can do more, be more, serve more people. So right now, I actually have a little link that's going to my waiting list for the quick start guide, which is AYRH.link. So are you really healthy? You can thank Jay for that one. .link/Jim Edwards, all in lowercase. So I know.
Say that again.
All right, you're going to have to text that one to me.
I can't spell.
I will.
What is it?
All right, one more time.
My podcast is Are You Really Healthy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you take the first letter of each word, AYRH, that's Are You Really Healthy?
Okay.
.link
/link.
Yep. .link/Jim Edwards, all in lowercase. I told Jay, like, that's a mouthful. I don't even know.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's really bad. But there you go.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll put the link in the description below.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I just, I'm passionate about helping others be able to have quality of life. And this is a big component within this space. So I appreciate the input, and that's what I'm going to be basically doing, is creating some information to put out there to our world and hopefully help people be able to accomplish their outcomes through their goals more strategically.
Awesome. Excellent.
Thank you so much, guys. I've had a really enjoyable morning with both of you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well,
thanks for joining us. And if you guys aren't members of the Sales Copywriting and Content Marketing Hacks group on Facebook, you should be.
Yes.
And we'll put the link down there for that as well. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Thank you, Stu.
You.
Great job, everybody. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye,
Awesome.
everybody.
Have an awesome day.